Couple of questions have been addressed to me on the type of worship one has to undertake. I've been receiving questions in Twitter from people who are practicing Tantra Sadhana. They are of the opinion that, that there seems to be a contradiction while performing the Tantra Sadhana, and they feel that it is in conflict with the path of knowledge or path of Advaita, that is non-dualism. And there was also, obviously this was a Devi worship that the reader was practicing. The first question she was asking me is that there is no mention of Shiva in a Tantra Shastra when you are doing for Devi. Number two, how to invoke Shiva in a Tantra sort of worship while we are doing it for Devi. Let me answer this question first. See, there are different types of basic upasanas Indian systems advocate. At the abstract level, one is through sound, that you get it through mantras. The second is through yantras, that is drawing of geographical figures with mystic properties. And the third is tantra. The tantra is a mixture of both, plus a physical involvement combined with these two. That is, a tantra involves, in most cases, yantra along with mantra. So, when you are doing the upasana through tantras, all these aspects come into play. Sometimes you are given a yantra which you have to meditate upon, and also along with that you are also given a mantra. In addition to that, sometimes you will also be given you will be asked to concentrate on an image. So this will take care of all the three aspects in a Tantra Sadhana. And in Tantra Sadhana, sometimes some physical activities are also involved. Now here, as a part of this answer, I am going to talk only about the japa aspect of Tantra Sadhana. Tantra is practiced as a japa. That is more important. This you will find a lot of references in Saundarya Lahari. You can practice this of Tantra through japa by reciting certain Saundarya Lahari stotras. Now, so here one has to understand the difference between a japa and a parayana. See, parayana is something which you do regularly, more or less by rote. As a systematically, every day you start doing like you do for Sundarakanda Parayana. You read certain chapters. There are various methods of reciting Sundarakanda, which I will explain later in a separate video. This, doing it regularly, you can read it aloud, sometimes you can read it in your mind, and it goes on. This becomes a parayana. But a japa is something which is basically done in the mind. So the concentration is to be more while performing a japa. In fact, japa improves concentration and concentration improves japa. So when you are doing a japa, there are three methods of doing japa. One is, first is chanting the mantra that is prescribed to you by opening the mouth, and the sounds also come out, which is ranked as the third most beneficial. The second is your lips move, but the sounds do not come. This is the second. It's okay. It's a normal practice. The most important, most powerful method is to allow the japa to run through your mind. It will keep on running in backward. This will happen only after you start doing the first 2 3 days. That is chanting it loudly, then without movement of the lips. Then again, when you do these two things properly, it will start running. The japa will continue to run in the mind. And that the japa is successful, that mantra is being practiced in the correct way, will be known by some signs which you get. The first sign you are likely to get is that without your conscious effort, the mantra which you have been initiated to will keep on running at the background of your mind, even not only during the puja time, also during your day-to-day activities. You need not be worried about that something is wrong with your mind or something. You need not consult a doctor. For a sadhaka, this is one of the first steps in realizing that the mantra is proceeding in the proper direction. And the second sound, in the case of, if you are following a japa for Devi, in this type of sadhana, you will start hearing the tingling of bells, anklet bells. Well, when nobody is present, don't be worried. Sometimes you may hear it during the japa period, or sometimes when you are not doing it, when you are going about your day-to-day activities. The third one is, this is slightly very, very dangerous one, and you have to guard yourself against it, especially in the case of males. You will start getting visions of a nude woman at nights also, in your dreams. And this is only to test your vow of not being attracted to anything physical, that you are not going after the pleasure-seeking senses. When you can withhold all these temptations, then your siddhi will come. The mantras will give you effects. And moreover, as these mantras keep on going on for quite some time, you will start getting small siddhis. Siddhis here meaning is some sort of, I would rather put it, something which is not normal in everyday life. You will start getting some sort of powers. I wouldn't say powers, something extra. For example, you will be able to anticipate the answer somebody is going to give you. You may be able to anticipate some people coming to your home. You may be able to predict certain events, and after some time, you may be able to even visualize certain things. That is what we call as clairvoyance. Then clairaudience is something which you can hear. And sometimes some people may be able to cure also others. See, these are all only the offshoots of the mantra becoming successful. These things are not to be attended to, they are not to be used, because they will detract you from the reaching the goal of realizing the Brahman or Devi, or or the controlling of your consciousness. After all, yoga or realization of Brahman is nothing but your stopping the modifications of your chitta. When you start stopping the modification of chitta, your mind becomes still. Then the individual consciousness becomes merged with the universal consciousness. This is a procedure that happens. This is a process of japa and any tantra. For that matter, any of the 4 yogas. The 4 yogas are Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. While Raja Yoga is an attempt to realize Brahman or reality or self by physical practices, Jnana Yoga is the process of knowledge, Karma Yoga is the process of action, and Bhakti Yoga is the process of surrendering oneself to God, immersing oneself emotionally with the supreme reality. But the net results are the same, only the process is different. Now I come to the first question that has been addressed to me. How do we invoke Shiva when we are worshipping Devi? You need not do anything. For a simple reason that when you start mentioning Devi, in Devi worship, Shiva is embedded in this. Because without Shakti there is no Shiva. In Sanskrit, it is said that Shiva is a term for auspiciousness, Mangal. But when you leave Shakti from Shiva, Shiva becomes Shava, that means Jata. Jata, that means lifeless. Only when Shakti is conjoined with Shiva, it becomes one. That is called Brahma Atma Aikya Anusantana. Devi and Shiva join always, they are present together. So this is explained. I am not going to quote anything from Vedas or any sloka, but I will simply quote from Kalidasa. He says, Shiva and Shakti are like word and its meaning. In Abhirami Bhattar, in Andadi, he says, Sollum Purulum Yena Nadamarum. That is word and its meaning. So they are inseparable. Then you find in Soundarari, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yati Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum Nache Devam Devo Nakal Kojala Spantitumabi. See, the movement of any object by a force is by Shakti. That force is Shakti, and the Stula is Shiva. So you need not take any effort in asking Shiva to be present. That is Avahana. Shiva is always present. Now if you read Lalita Sahasranama is both a Tantra Sadhana and also Mantra Sadhana jointly put together. It's one of the greatest works. Now you will find a lot of sentences. Now when you find it is split into various parts. One is in Lalita Sahasranama, after the beginning, Purvanga, they will say the avatar of Devi, then description of Chintamani, wherever she is, her Saguna attribute. Then what will happen is, you will find Saguna Aradhana. Saguna Asana is a process where the reality is basically attribute, beyond attribute. Now, as an individual, if you want to concentrate on an attribute, you need an attribute. So, you ascribe whatever attributes you think as perfect. Only then you will identify with that Devi or Deva. So, all these perfect attributes are given in Saguna. So, they will say Saguna portion comes in Lalita Sahasranama. Then Nirguna Aradhana comes. So, you worship. A Devi with form is worshipped as Saguna Aradhana in Lalita Sahasranama. Later part, in the same stotra, you will find Nirguna Aradhana. She is also worshipped as one beyond attribute. Nirguna, without attributes. Technically, it may not be correct. Nirguna here means beyond attributes. We do not know the attributes we have to give to her, the reality. Then, that doesn't mean she is separate. Then they say, Aikyanusandana. That means Shiva and Shakti jointly put together. So, then, when you start doing this, Shiva is already present, though he is not explicitly stated. In Lalita Sahasranama, you find one beautiful couplet, which I will discuss wholly for one episode, where she says, Atma Vidya, Mahavidya, Sri Vidya, Kamasevidra, Sri Shodashakari Vidya, Trikuta, Kamakotika. Then, again, one more place, the reference is Panjami Pancha Bhuteshu, Pancha Brahma Sanasthita. So, the Shiva, in one of the couplets, is compared to the Devi described as, Devi is supposed to be sitting in a cart with the 5 Shivas are supporting her. That is, that represents the 5 faces and the 5 principles of Shiva, that is the Jata Shakti. So, to address the question very specifically, when you are performing Devi Tantra Upasana, you need not specially invoke Shiva, he is already present. Thank you.